Hey guys, so today we are going to be looking at chapter 18 in your books, and this is Teak 8b, following the analysis of relationship among organisms, and specifically taxonomy. Taxonomy is defined as the science dealing with the description, identification, naming, and classification of organisms. Scientists go through and they take an unknown organism and they go through its domain, which is the highest rank of all organisms. So it is just the complete life of all living things on Earth. From there, they move on to what type of kingdom it is in. And kingdoms is a large taxonomic group consisting of closely related phyla. And so they go to what type of phyla. And a phyla is the many different organisms that share many important characteristics. So does it have 4 legs? Is it hairy? Can it swim? All things like that. And then I go to a class, and it's this group of similar orders. And an order is a group of similar families. Then I go to a family and find out what family it is. And family is a group of genera that share many characteristics. And then they go to the genus and a group of closely related species. And when they get down to families and genus and species, all these things are very closely related. And the species is as close as you can get. So it's a group of similar organisms that can breed and produce fertile offspring. If you look on page 450 in your book, it gives a really good visualization of what scientists go through, showing a grizzly bear, black bears, fox, squirrel, snakes, and sea stars, and just breaking it down from there until you get to the grizzly bear, and showing how closely related all of these different things are. A way to remember the order of classification is King Philip came over for good spaghetti. So kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. If you turn to page 459 in your book, we're going to be looking at all of these different classifications of living organisms on the chart, and just explaining to you what each one of these different things mean. We first come across the domain bacteria, and this specific one, bacteria, is specifically in the kingdom Eubacteria. Cell type is prokaryote, so they do not contain a nucleus. Their cell structure is a cell wall with peptidoglycan. It is a unicellular organism, so just one organism, doesn't have multicellular like you and I are. And it is an autotroph, which means it has to go and make its own food. An example of this is the Streptococcus virus. So anytime you get strep throat, you're getting, it is classified under the Eubacteria group. Next one is Archaebacteria. And it is a prokaryote, again, no nucleus. It is a cell wall without peptidoglycan, which helps define the boundary between a bacteria and Archaebacteria. It is again a unicellular, and it has to make its own food. So methanogines, like this one. Moving on to Eukarya, the domain Eukarya, and this one is the kingdom Protista. So again, this one is a eukaryote, so it has a nucleus. A way to remember that is eukaryotes have a nucleus in their cells like you do. So eukaryote, you have a nucleus. Little thing to remember. Cell structure, it has a cell wall with cellulose, so all that lovely stuff that keeps it all together and held in there. It some of them have chloroplasts. It just depends on what type of organism you're looking at. Some are multicellular, so that it doesn't just vary from unicellular organisms. These actually do have a few multicellular organisms, and they are autotrophs. So examples are amoeba, slime mold, or giant kelp. Then back to eukarya, and this one is fungi. Again, eukarya, so it has a nucleus. The cell wall has chitin in it. It is multicellular, and these are heterotrophs, so they have to go and make their way to find their find organisms to feed off of. They don't make their own food. Mushrooms are an example that we have, and they're decomposers, so they go and break down other organisms for food and nutrients. Then we have plantae, and again eukaryotes, so they have a nucleus. These have a cell wall of cellulose and chloroplast, so all that green stuff from their leaves, this is where they are classified in. They're multicellular and autotrophs. An example is flowering plants like hibiscus, daisies, dandelions, grass, all things like this. And last we have animalia. And these don't have a cell wall or the chloroplast. They're multicellular, and they have to go find their they go out and find their food. So sponges, worms, insects, fish, all mammals. You and I would be classified under animalia. Like giraffes. Giraffes are classified under here. And some important things to remember why we classify organisms. Each organism has to be given a name. So when you hear the word bird, there are all different sorts of birds out there, but we further break it down into specific birds like bluebirds, mockingbirds. All these sorts of organisms need their own specific names so they can be looked up and classified and recognized later on. So KPCOFGS. King Philip came over for good spaghetti. Just remember your kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. All from highest ranking organisms to the very nature of what an organism is and their closely related family members. Prokaryotes, they do not have a nucleus, and eukaryotes, they do contain a nucleus. Also, make sure you know the definition of taxonomy and what taxonomy is. And so just if you remember all these things, you will do great on your tax test, no problem whatsoever. So good luck, guys.